Hello, farmers, and welcome to another episode of The Harvest Season. My name is Al,
And my name is Cody.
and we are here today to talk about Cottagecore games.
Woo!
Woo! Uh, Cody, it's been so long. It's been a whole week
A
since we
whole
talked.
week. Yeah. And this was a surprise. I didn't realize I was gonna be on. I was like, oh man, I'm not recording for a while. And now
We don't.
now I
I don't think we need to talk about the fact that the who is on this podcast has changed three different times.
I mean it's just yeah. I guess it's just the fact of my travel plans got messed up. I was supposed to be home right now.
Mm,
But for those in the United States, you will know that there is a huge winter storm happening
there
back
is
to back to
weather.
back. There's
Weather is
much
happening.
weather. There's so much weather. And I was like,
January
no.
weather.
My flights got canceled like three times. And I was just like, no, I'm just going to stop. I'm just going to stop trying to go home now. Which ended up working out because one of the whole reasons I was trying to go was because my grandma was supposed to have shoulder surgery and I was going to like help out. But then, literally the day before I left, I was supposed to leave. That got scheduled to February, and it was like not when I was going to be there. So it works out because I can now make sure that I'm there for that. But it just was frustrating
Nice.
because I was supposed to be on vacation.
Yeah.
But such is life, and yeah.
Yeah.
How is the weather where you are?
Uh, it's cold, but it's not too cold.
Oh
It's just
man,
kind of standard winter cold
it
for here.
heckin' windy here.
Yeah, I mean it's all. Well, I mean I'm coastal, so it's always windy here, right? But which I
Yeah.
think is part of the reason why it feels colder.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like it's only -1 Celsius here, which is
It's like 30.
yeah, almost exactly. But the
Oh,
wind, the wind gets you.
I have a European roommate. I know how to do these conversions.
There are a few I know off the top of my head. That
Hmm.
should have been one,
That's
because of
fine.
course I knew that should have been one. Um, but for some reason my brain not worky.
Oh, I
So
also did want to mention, listeners, if you have any interest in listening to an episode about the best version number systems. I was talking to my partner about it the other day, and he like mentioned this very specific version number system, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, we could make a whole episode out of
well, of
this."
course we could. It doesn't mean we need to. Presumably
But
it was Semver he was talking about, semantic
yeah, he was
versioning.
talking about
Yeah.
Sunbear. So yeah, listeners, if you want to hear
The
about
problem
that,
the problem is that Semver only really makes sense for things with interfaces, which user-facing software is not, and people use it for that, but then it doesn't really map in the exact same way. So you're like, well, at what point are we going to do this? Because the
well
whole
then,
point of that is that you only change a major version number when there's something backwards incompatible. But that doesn't make any sense when you're not an interface.
well, that's why we need to devise
Or we don't.
cottage ver,
Or we
cottage
don't.
semver,
Or we just don't.
cot semver.
Well, I mean, I've already done it, right? I've said there's you just have two numbers. One when you're adding new stuff, one when you're fixing bugs. That's it. Done. You don't need
Like
any more.
one for content,
Don't,
one for patch.
yeah, that's all you need. You don't need any more. Two
Okay, but
numbers.
we could definitely get into this in
No,
a
that's it. That's it. We're done.
listeners, if you really want to.
Transcripts for this podcast are available in the show notes and on the website. 5 minutes in. So, as useful as that is, uh, this episode, we're going to talk about some ideas that we've had for what we want people to make cottagecore games of.
Hmm.
So, and then we're going to argue about them, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Hmm.
Um, so before that, we've got a bunch of news. And then, first of all, but for wording,
Hmm.
segues.
Hmm.
But first of all, Cody, what have you been up to?
I have been playing. I'm still playing Coral Island.
Mhm.
Still enjoying that. But I was also am also playing Palia, and so I was playing a lot of Coral Island because I was home and had my Xbox and I could play it, and I knew that when I went on vacation, ha, I wasn't going to be able to play it because I don't bring my Xbox on vacation, but I am bringing my Switch. And so I was like, oh, I can play so much Palia on my vacation. But now vacation is kind of stalled. But I don't know. I'm still probably going to be playing a decent amount of Palia here in the next few weeks. But I've also been reading a lot of books. So I got into the Poppy War series by R.F. Kuang. I picked up some Joe Abercrombie books. These are all fantasy books. I'm really trying to like pull out the fantasy listeners here. Like, come at me with your book recommendations because I freaking love them. And then I finally caved and bought the second book in the Fourth Wing series, Iron Flame, because I read
Mm.
Fourth Wing. It was okay, but I want to know what happens. I want to know. So, but there's like a 40-week wait for my library, and I
Uh,
found one for pretty cheap. So I finally just caved and bought that. So I have a giant stack of books that were for vacation. So now I just have a giant stack of books waiting for when I can read them.
nice.
But yeah, so listeners, hit me with those fantasy recs on the Slack. Do
Well,
love some fantasy books.
well, here's a fun thing. I bet you weren't
Mhm.
expecting me to have some actual stuff on books. I don't. I've not been reading, don't worry. But you mentioned Iron Flame, and I was like, oh, that is the book that I bought my sister for Christmas. So
Oh
there you
yeah,
go.
there you go.
Because it was on her wish list.
I mean, you might know some of the books. So my partner, I'm in his apartment right now, and he has a book that was called like, let me just find the picture of it, but it was really stupid. And then he has another one here. This is his bedside reading, The Linux Programming Interface.
Oh my word, what a nerd.
Oh, and domain design. But there was this one that was so funny. Um, it was, oh, I also yesterday I'm in New York City and I had a milkshake that had a whole ass piece of cake on top. It was so goofy. Made sense why it was $15. Okay, the book is called Data Design for Mere Mortals. Database design for mere mortals. So stupid. Anyway, that seems like the kind of books that you would read out.
Well, sure, in theory. Like when I was in uni, I had to read a whole bunch of books like that, but I didn't. I bought them
Okay.
and then I sold them.
Okay. That's fair.
It's just not like I'm not going to learn by reading paper about how these
Mm-hmm.
things, it's not how it works
That's fair.
for me.
Yeah. Well, he said that he was going to be selling the database design for Mere Mortals book because it wasn't great.
Fair
So don't
enough.
get that if you are a programmer. What about you, Al? What have you been up to?
Well, you have reminded me just before I go into what I've done. I was reminded of, so you mentioned Coral Island.
Yeah.
I had some feedback from John, listener of the podcast, my brother-in-law, um, who's
Okay.
who we had been mentioning about kind of the weirdness of how Coral Island kind of stops at some points,
Okay. Yeah.
and he he wanted to point out that not obviously, I mean, he agrees about the Merfolk Kingdom thing, right? Like that's weird,
Right.
but he wanted to point out that he says, I think the missing giant seems okay. It would be weird if they decided to add that later and had to shoehorn it in,
Mm-hmm.
but also I don't think you need to resolve every single storyline, which I think is a
Yeah.
fair point. So yeah, I think the what I replied to him was, yeah, that's fair. I think I'm just a bit more miffed about it because of the bug with the quest. That that in
Yeah.
and of itself was quite annoying. But yeah, so that's a fair point. I take that on board. Not all storylines need to be 100% resolved. That is totally fair.
Hmm. True. Well, okay. And now what have you been playing?
Yeah, yes. So I mean, basically just Pokemon. There is a game I'm meant to be playing for the podcast, but we delayed that episode because I'm
Did
really
you?
bad sometimes at playing games. So it got to Friday and I'm like, I've played 15 minutes of this game. Can we delay this episode? So I've not been playing that. I have been playing Pokemon because the epilogue came out this week. So I've
Is
played
that
that.
Sword and Scarlet Violet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's the kind of extra random bit of story at the end after the two DLCs.
Okay.
So yeah, I enjoyed it. It's not a huge thing. You can kind of, if you're paying attention, it'll take you like an hour and a half, 2 hours. If
Hmm.
you're zooming through it, you can get it done in like 40 minutes. But it was a fun little extra thing. So I played
Hmm.
that on both games, and now I've done my regular thing of remembering that my forms, my Pokemon living decks with all the forms, I've not completed all of the forms, so
Mm.
I'm doing some more of that. And I'm currently getting really annoyed trying to find an Aqua Paldean Taurus because they're such a small, um, what's the word?
Drop
Spawn
rate?
rate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's fun. I enjoy it. Whatever.
Hmm.
And then also I've watched, so I did my regular 1 month of Netflix to watch everything that's on it.
Okay. Yep.
And so I've watched a bunch of things. I watched Wednesday, and I watched One Piece, the
Hmm.
live action One Piece, and I watched the new season of Sonic Prime. And there's a couple other things I want to watch as well. So yeah, I've been consuming a lot of that, of stuff
Hmm.
that's come out in the last year or two, and but I haven't watched it because I didn't have Netflix at the time.
Cool. Yeah, I really liked Wednesday. Um,
It was really good.
I didn't, I haven't watched One Piece, and part of me wants to not watch the live action because then what if I then want to get into the anime? You know,
What about it?
that's a commitment.
Well, yeah, but my point is like I don't. Oh, you mean what if watching the live action makes you want to watch the anime?
Yes.
Oh, I don't think it will.
Okay. Maybe I'll watch it.
And equally, I think that from what I can gather, the live action first series of the live action covers like the first 500 episodes or something insane of the anime. Just there's so much, like, you know what animes are like, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
they, they pad things out so much, and
Oh
there's
yeah.
so many filler episodes. I might be a little bit exaggerating with 500, but certainly it was a lot of the episodes
Yeah.
it covers with the first 10 episodes of the live action. So if they keep going with that, which they've said they're doing a second season so far, it's Netflix, so you never know.
Yeah.
I suspect they would catch up pretty quickly. So yeah, I
Oh
enjoyed
my
it.
goodness.
I thought it was good fun. It is not at all what I expected it to be. I don't know what I expected it to be, but I didn't expect it to be pirates. I didn't know it was about it's about
Well,
pirates. Did you know One Piece is about pirates?
you didn't know One Piece was a vampire.
Why would I know it was about pirates? I've never watched or read any One Piece. Why would I know it's about
Okay.
pirates?
I
I
mean,
don't know.
I've not watched or seen any. I just have a roommate that really likes anime.
Yeah,
So
I have never had a conversation about One Piece that isn't just, oh, you're gonna watch One Piece? Haha, no, it's very long.
okay, okay, yeah, no, it's about pirates. They're
So
yeah,
I enjoyed that.
cool.
Shall we talk about some news?
Oh yeah.
Turnip Boy robs a bank. I don't know when they announced when this game was coming out, because apparently it's coming out on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, Thursday.
Mm-hmm. The
So
day after this comes out, right?
yes. Yes. So I don't know when they announced that, but apparently they did.
Mm-hmm.
And I've pre-ordered it on Switch. So there we go.
You excited?
Oh yeah. Loved the first
Excited
game. It was
to
fantastic.
rob a bank?
Absolutely. And I mean, the first game wasn't really cottagecore and it wasn't really farming. You farm, like you grow a plant to use as a sword,
Mm-hmm.
which is about as far as the farming goes, and it's very much not cottagecore. But I enjoyed it nonetheless. This game, even less cottagecore, I suspect, because you're robbing a bank. Um, so yeah. I don't know.
Well, you
Playing
still
fast
got to
and loose
cover
with the
it
term
because
cottagecore here.
you still got to cover it because we got to know.
Absolutely.
We need the deets.
Of
So
course. Of course.
very
So
exciting.
there we go. That's a thing. Um,
Hmm.
did you play the first?
No,
Ah, well, the first is currently on sale on Steam, 66% off.
that's crazy. Is it part of the communism? No,
Mm,
capitalism.
yeah. Yeah. I saw someone post it like, oh, it's capitalism sale. Isn't that just all sales?
Yeah.
Capitalism and Economy Fest. That's what it's called.
Yep. Which will be done by the time the podcast comes out. Sorry, y'all. But I saw Parkosaurus was on it. I was like, ooh. But
Parkosaurus. It looks like it's also on sale on Switch.
mhm. Well, I have
66% off.
very little money in the world. especially
Yeah,
because I
well.
just had to reschedule something. So I like
Turn it boy.
Turnip Boy. I like make planning my flights like so many months in advance
Mm,
so it's super super cheap,
mm.
but I am now having to reschedule to like less than a month and now I'm
Stress.
grumpy. But it's fine. Turnip Boy. Woo.
Cult of the Lamb are releasing their Sins of the Flesh update. Um, so we're gonna be nice and careful with this because this is generally a family-friendly podcast.
Mhm.
Um, there is procreation now coming to the
Mhm.
game,
Mhm.
uh, and
Well, it's like in Pokemon when you breed
yeah,
when you have
exactly.
eggs
Or in The
because they are
Sims,
eggs.
where the babies happen.
Yeah, um you just adopt them. This is
Y-
fine.
Yep.
Yeah, so you can now have that. They have this like nudity, which is really cute because they have just like a little leaf, which I thought was super cute. They have new progression systems, so some of your followers can be kind of beefier, I guess. And there's more benefits for them. One benefit in particular that I thought you were gonna like, Al, is the improved automation. So there's now a janitor station and storage structures that you can build, and it helps so that your followers can take better care of themselves, so that when you come back, you're not coming back to chaos.
Yeah.
There's a new gun that helps you fight heretics. You can build. I don't remember what it was called, but it's like I think it's the tailor, and that allows your followers to have better fashion. And then my favorite part was on the Twitter link, which will be linked in the show notes about this. The Among Us Twitter responded with finally, which was just like, why?
Yeah.
Uh,
That's just asking for them to be asked why they don't have it.
like why Among Us doesn't have nudity?
Yeah.
Okay. Are they
Anyway,
people?
I noticed something fun. They have a URL shortener, their own URL shortener called cult.link. Just thought it was fun. So there you go.
Very cute. I still really want to play this game and I still haven't played it yet. So, have we done a second harvest on it?
Mm. Yes. I want to say that was me.
Okay.
He says searching.
He says with a
Yeah. Yeah, we did.
question mark at the
Me, me
end.
and me and Bev did a second harvest on it.
Okay. Well,
And I think it was
maybe I
Kevin
need
and
Kelly.
Kelly who did the first one.
Well, maybe I need to do maybe me and Johnny will do the Sins of the Flesh update.
Oh, why not? I think
Yeah.
we're very soon going to have our fifth episode on Stardew Valley. So
Yeah. It happens. So, because I do really want to play this.
fair enough. Meat Light, which still hate the name. They have delayed their alpha, which was meant to be coming out at the end of the year. It's now coming summer 2024,
Hmm.
with apparently the beta coming a month later. I highly doubt there's going to be a month
That's
between
what
the
they
alpha and the beta.
said, but
That
yeah, I also
is
have some
not.
doubts.
It's not going to happen. Um, but we'll see.
Hmm.
So that's on Kickstarter. If you're an alpha or a beta backer, you'll get the information.
Hmm. They also said that they're gonna reduce the amount of updates that they try and post because they want to be able to focus on development. So they're only planning to release updates every 3 months. And they do have in this update that they have on Kickstarter right now, they have some information about new music, some information about one of the villages, some screenshots of of a romanceable character, etc. So stuff to look forward to the alpha when it comes out in the summer.
Woo.
Woo!
Chilltown have released their beta. So again, if you're a Kickstarter of the beta level, which I'm not, I just did the base one because I know I've got too many games to play as it is. I don't need to be adding on alphas and betas to that. Check your Kickstarter email. They'll have sent you some information or something.
And they have some they're moving along. They're having a lot of stuff come out for it, which is really cool. There was it so I also hadn't seen this game before, I don't think. And this it looks very Animal Crossing.
Hmm.
But they have like some wilderness that you can explore, so you can like choose a different type of island to go explore and just get resources from, which is really cool. And then they also added new flowers and fencing and stuff like that. So it looks like they're really active in development.
Yep.
So good for them.
Yep. 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 I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a exciting game.
Hmm.
One specifically for Cody, Rusty's retirement is confirmed coming to Mac now. Wait, is this good or is this bad?
It's good because I wanted to
Okay,
play it.
right, but it's bad because it'll always be on your computer now.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'll just turn it on. I'll just turn on the focus mode.
Okay. I, I mean that requires like discipline,
Hmm.
which I'm not going to say you don't have. That would be
Oh, I
harsh,
I don't right now,
but
but
we're very similar, and I don't have that discipline.
we
So
we are very similar. You're not wrong. However, I think by the time this comes out, I will have my medication.
it's well, la di da. It's all right for some. So it's one of these things. This is one of these things I was talking to my therapist about, and she was like, "Oh, do you ever do these things like positive reinforcement things?" And I'm like, my brain knows I'm tricking it, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't care.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like it's like, oh, if I do this thing, I get a snack, and it can go, I can just have the snack,
I can
right?
just do that.
I don't,
Yeah.
I can't trick myself. That's not how this works. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I try and like they're like, "Oh, just like schedule it and impose a deadline on yourself." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, but I
it's a fake
know that
deadline.
I can just move the deadline
Yeah.
so it doesn't do anything for me." No, so I'm hoping that when I get some type of ADHD meds, we'll see what I get. I don't know what they're going to offer me, but hopefully I'll be I'll have some built-in focus ability
Look, I'm not.
developed at that point.
The deadline thing is funny, right? Because I'm not gonna lie.
Uh-huh.
If you look at the main episodes of the podcast and you look at the greenhouse episodes of the podcast, you could very much see that deadlines help
Yep, they do.
because every single episode of this podcast has come out on the day it's meant to come out.
See, but that's a deadline that has another like other
Yeah, no, that's my
people.
point. That's my
Yeah,
point. Exactly. Like I have a strict schedule and it works. It actually has done it. And there are some times that the episode has only come out because I say that there's going to be an episode every Wednesday, right?
exactly.
There have been weeks where that might not have happened. And
Yeah.
then you look at the greenhouse and it's like, oh, there was nothing in April or May. And then there were six in June. Because
Yeah,
it's like,
but
all I say about that one is roughly two a month. And let
yeah,
me tell you, you got two a month last year, just
roughly
not every month. You got
over time,
an average of two a month.
over time, you got the quantity, but they just did not release
There was no
twice a month.
regularity to that.
Whatever, people appreciate it.
Thank you, my patrons.
They'd probably, I mean, TBH, the patrons probably appreciate the like waiting for us to have things that we're excited to
Well,
talk
that's
about
true.
versus like forcing content that we
That's
might
true.
not necessarily be as excited to talk about. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
How many more Sonic episodes will we do? I don't know. Um,
many.
Immortal Life. By the way, I enjoyed the Sonic Prime. Sonic Prime was good.
Hmm.
Kevin said, I've heard that it's bad. And no, I don't think it is. I think it's good. It is a self-contained three-series arc about a specific story. And it's basically like multiversal Sonic. And I think it's really fun.
Okay.
So if you've ever wanted to see four different kinds of Amy all fighting together, go watch Sonic Prime. Really good.
Okay.
Immortal Life. Join a flourishing settlement in an id
Idyllic.
in an idyllic valley and seek a peaceful life as you search for a way to restore your recently destroyed Taoist clan. Farm, rebuild, make friends, explore, and train. Will you find your way to immortality in this earthly paradise? I don't know. Will I?
I don't know.
It's a good question. So I don't think we've covered this game yet, despite the fact that it's been
Hmm.
in early access for quite a while, nearly a year.
And the
But
fact that it's coming out pretty soon.
yes, the 1.0 is now coming out on the 18th of January, which is the day after this episode comes out. So
Hmm.
now we were talking about it.
Hmm.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, I like the look of it. The graphics kind of give me Okami vibes, which I really like Okami. It's just kind of like the brushstroke look to it in the not all of the graphics, but like a lot of the background stuff looks like it was brushed on,
Hmm.
which is really pretty. And to me, like it looks like a Stardew clone set in China that includes some type of magical abilities to help you with farming and
Yeah.
the mines and stuff like that. It looks like there was some combat based magic system.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty
Um,
fair. Stardew clone with magic set in China sounds pretty fair from what I can see. Which
mhm.
is like it's one of these things where had this come out 5 years ago, would I be playing it? Probably. Like, I don't think I'm going to spend the time to play this game because it's like I'm not seeing anything that really hooks me and says you must play this now.
Mhm.
The crops look
Yeah,
really nice though, I will say.
they do. I was gonna say the crops themselves look pretty unique and pretty nice. Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat as you. I have too many games and too little money and too little time. So something has to have a hook that's really different and jumps out and snags me to make me play it. So,
Yeah.
but looks cool and is gonna come out. So yeah, check it out.
Yeah. If it sounds good to you, go get it.
Immortal Life. What is it
Immortal
available on?
Life. It is on Steam, uh, just for Windows, as far as I can see,
Lame.
and it is coming to PS4 and Switch, but I don't see anything about when it's actually coming.
Hmm.
It looks like they announced initially that it was coming out on PS4 and Switch, and then didn't say anything else about it. So maybe it'll come out on Switch, maybe it won't. We'll see. But as of
Okay.
now, we only know about the Steam version releasing on the 18th of January.
Woo.
Woo! That's the news. So we're going to talk about cottagecore game ideas, is how I'm describing it.
Uh-huh.
And basically, I mean, okay, this all comes down to I watched a show, which we're going to talk about soon, and I thought this would be fun as a cottagecore game. And then I went, hey, let me see if I can talk about that. So we'll get to that. But I thought there might be other ideas that we might have about uh games that people could make, and you could take it and go make it.
Hmm.
And there we go.
Yeah. So devs, if you're listening and if you've been like, man, I don't know what to make, but I want to make something, get your notebooks ready because we're gonna throw some golden nuggets out into the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, First of all, we're going to chat a little bit about what what Cody thinks.
I just
The
thought that
top
to
three
have
things that a cottagecore
okay,
game needs.
okay, come on. I thought that if we were going to have this type of conversation where we're talking about here are some ideas for cottagecore games, we should
Hmm.
probably have some type of preliminary discussion about what we think a cottagecore game is.
No,
Because
I
if
think
we're
that's
going to
totally fair.
say, then don't come at me just because you didn't write
Look,
your comments.
I'm sorry. Did I say something that was negative? I just said that these are what Cody thinks a cottagecore game needs, and we're going to talk about them. That's all
It's
I
a
said.
it's a
Where's the negative in what I said, Cody? Always assuming the worst here.
hit me.
What? Assuming the worst or the worst?
Yes, same. Same in both, and yes.
Definitely not.
So I sat down for a super long 1 minute and thought about thought about like for me like what is a requirement for something to be a cottagecore game. And the three things that I kind of circled around is it has to have cozy vibes. So it doesn't have to have cozy vibes in every aspect of the game, but just at least in some part, there has to be like a kind of an area that has a lot of plants, a lot of green. It has to be a fairly low stakes game. So like you're not out here like saving the world. It's not an action game. It's just about living your life. Like if you had a cottage and you were living in a cottage. So cozy vibes. And then there has to be some aspects of growing or creating things. So whether that is
Mm.
like actually farming or like building things, like if you're mining resources and then building something from it. And then there also is generally some aspect of collecting and exploring. So
Mm.
collecting could be something like fishing or farm or bug catching or like fossils, that kind of thing, or just exploring. So you have an
Mm.
area, a large geographic area, and you explore it. You explore the mines, you explore the undersea area. But yeah, so those were kind of like what I fell on as something that every cottagecore game needs,
Mhm.
or the ones that we've discussed, like what they generally have. So come at me. What do you disagree with here?
I didn't say I disagreed with anything. And now I'm going to disagree with it. So
Heck yeah.
I think this is pretty fair. Part of me wants to say that the growing, creating things is an optional one.
Okay.
Pretty common. Like I'm not saying it doesn't have like I'm most of them, like 90% of them would have it. But I
Hmm.
don't think I would say that that would be a requirement. I think you
Okay.
could totally have a cozy game that is focused entirely around collecting things,
Okay.
um, and have no growing or crafting or anything like that, and
Well,
just have collecting.
so growing could also be like building. I also see that as building.
Okay, well, if you're going to change what words mean, then
Okay.
sure.
I'm not changing what words mean. I'm just like it's like because I would say that like bear and
For listeners,
breakfast.
Cody has now changed the sentence to some aspect of growing slash creating slash building things. That building was not there before.
No, no. So I mean, this is good because you're helping me
Hmm.
like come up with a better just definition. We're creating this definition together. But no, so like that was part of that is like what I thought by creating, like I thought of like in Minecraft when you're creating like a when you build stuff with the crafting table. But that is part of like building things. So like in Bear and Breakfast, for example, you don't really grow anything, but you do build you collect resources and you build like the furniture that then goes into your hotels or your inns or your whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, that's fair.
So like that, I think that that is a big part of it. And even if you have some type of collection game, so I'm thinking of like a game where literally all you do is go out and collect resources or collect insects or collect fish or whatever, you generally like then would probably come back and build a terrarium for them
Oh
or
yeah,
build,
generally,
yeah.
yeah. I think it's more just a case of like I could absolutely. This is not about like, oh, this game doesn't have it, but I could totally foresee a collection based game that
Mm-hmm.
is purely collection based.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like,
Well, then would it not be cottagecore? It would just be a creature collector.
well, no, if it's cozy,
Okay. So
right?
it has to have
Like,
two of these
I
things.
think so. If we talk like for example, I don't consider Pokemon generally to be
Mm-mm.
cottagecore, right? But that's because it doesn't have that vibe.
Yeah.
It's about, you know, animal fights,
Yeah.
right? That's not cozy. If Pokemon didn't have the battles,
Yeah.
I would probably argue that many of them would be cottagecore.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them have some growing aspects to them, but it's very limited and they haven't done that for quite a while. So yeah.
Yeah.
But I think most would. And I think that it can often improve the game if they do have that.
Mm-hmm.
Because as is always common with games, you have your primary gameplay loop, which is doing a thing, and then you have your secondary uh gameplay loop, which is uses the primary gameplay loop to do something else longer over time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have that, you don't have your longer term thing, then you get bored of the game pretty quickly.
I'd say
Um,
there's also usually like a design aspect.
what do
So
you mean
like
by that?
So you said there's like the primary gameplay loop and then there's the secondary one, but you could do I'm one of those people where I just do those gameplay loops, period, end of story. But a lot of games will usually also have some aspect of you can design things. So like you can decorate your house or you can decorate your characters or you can decorate like all this different stuff. And I think that that is also another thing, at least the ability to decorate
These
or
are, yeah, I mean, these are generally just different primary gameplay loops.
oh, okay.
A game can have multiple of them. It doesn't have to be like it doesn't have to just be like, here's the one thing you do, which then as you do it lots, it unlocks other things, which then does this other thing. Like it doesn't have to be all completely interconnected.
Got it.
They can be different strands, and different related things.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool.
Okay.
So let's talk. I want to talk about my first one first, which is the one that I watched the show and I went, I want this as a game, and that
Okay.
is Pokemon Concierge. I want a Pokemon Concierge game.
Okay.
So for those who haven't watched this show,
Mm-hmm.
very minor spoilers for Pokemon Concierge, but let's be honest, it's very hard to spoil that because the enjoyment of that is in watching it. It is about someone who escapes their life, their 9 to 5 standard life, to go to an island and help work at a Pokemon hotel.
Mm-hmm. Like
Sounds
a
like a Cottagecore
resort.
game already, doesn't it? Um, so I want that. Like, obviously, you could go in so many different ways with this. You could
Mm-hmm.
be in the case of the show, it's obviously just like a worker, and it could be just that. You could be a worker at the hotel doing what needs to be done, or you could have it where you're running the hotel, kind of, more bed and breakfast style.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that, but also with Pokemon. I want a Pokemon Cottagecore game, and
Mm-hmm.
this I think would work really well. Yeah, there we go.
So I think like I like the idea, like you're saying, that you could be a worker or you could be the person running it. This makes me think of like The Sims, where
Hmm.
you can flip between people. And
Ooh,
I think
yes,
that
yes.
would be so cool, where like if you wanted, you could just go be the I'm trying to think of the Vaporeon that's helping in the laundry.
Hmm.
And there could be like a laundry mini game that like helps you clean
I
the sheets or
hadn't
something.
hadn't even considered being the Pokemon.
Oh yeah, like
Mm,
like flipping between them.
yeah.
And I mean maybe like you have to build up your friendship level with these Pokemon before they'll let you be them. I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know. But
That's a very weird sentence, but I know what you mean.
before you can inhabit their body and
That's
and
worse.
control everything.
Stop it.
But no, I think that would be really fun, like having it where you can build your relationships with these Pokemon and then you can maybe like help them with their duties. So then there could be like a mini game that is laundry, a mini game that is fold the towels or make the bed or clean
Mm.
the whatever, make the food for the with the gosh, what Pokemon would be in the kitchen? A Mr. Mime? I
Oh,
don't know.
creamy.
Well, yeah, but so like there'd be Alcremie, there'd be
Thank you.
yeah, there'd
Cody.
probably be a Vanillux. Some of these don't have hands though. Like how are they going to
But
be
Alcremie
doing?
has hands.
Okay, okay.
Come on. Have you not watched the anime?
Uh, no.
The new anime series has a lot of focus on Alcremie. So,
Okay, I have not. But yeah, so it would be cute to be able to kind of flip between the different quote unquote characters, um, and be able to kind of inhabit all aspects of running a little resort. I think that'd be really cute.
yeah, I like the addition of mini games that would, because that's very much in the spirit of Pokemon side games, right? Like they quite often have lots of mini games in them. And also I like the idea of playing as the Pokemon. You could either do it as you're playing just as a Pokemon or you're playing both as humans and as Pokemon. Like there's lots of room
Mm-hmm.
to come up with other creative ideas within this, I think.
Mm-hmm. Also, so in the show, is it? Are the guests of the hotel people or are they Pokemon?
Both. I think they're both
Because I could see
primarily
like
Pokemon.
okay, because I could see like kind of like Bear and Breakfast, where some people want rooms that have more of X and some people have rooms that are more Y. Like
Yes.
have it where you have a room that's great for fire type Pokemon and you have a room that's great for grass type. And like you have these rooms, or you can quickly redecorate a room to be in the style of a
Mm,
different Pokemon typing, and you'd get like a bonus for matching those.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I think I would. So I think in this game, I think it would make most sense for all of the guests to be Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
I think thematically that would make most sense. And
Mm-hmm.
also, then you're not having to create human characters that you would actually ever care about. Uh, and you have like a built-in, here are 1,000 Pokemon that we can use for this.
And what if you fill a Pokedex with your
There you
guests
go. It's a Pokemon
and
game. Perfect.
and you can also if your room is so great and your guest, say you get an Ivysaur come in and you give it a room that it just loves. What if it evolves while it's there? Because it's so
What?
happy.
What?
Wouldn't that be so cute?
Yes. This is perfect. Right, Pokemon, you can have this idea.
Yep.
There you go. Make
Yep.
a Pokemon. It'd be hilarious if they ended up coming out with it like in on Pokemon Day. They announce it, and it's like we had the idea second, technically, I guess, because you've been developing this for a couple of years now.
Watch it like comes out tomorrow. And I don't know. That'd be funny.
I don't think it would come out tomorrow. I think if it's going to come out, it's being announced on Pokemon Day, right? No, no new Pokemon things are being announced in
That's true.
January.
No,
That's
you're
not
right.
happening.
You're right. They have a day set for it. That would be really fun though. Though I would want this to be a more fully fleshed out game. I'd be really sad if this was like a mobile game that was bare bones.
Yeah, I think it could work well as a both
Hmm.
game. Like you'd have to have I think you'd want the interface to be slightly different between them, but I think you
Yeah.
could have it as both mobile and Switch.
Hmm.
All
I
right,
would want
tell me
Switch.
about one that you have.
Yeah, so I thought about games that I haven't seen that I would like. And dove
Dove.
dove really deep into my own life about what parts of my life are not represented in a video game that other people might also enjoy. So, the first suggestion that I had was a game where you run a wildlife rehabilitation center.
Mm.
So, I have always wanted to run like a wolf sanctuary or something like that, like ever since I was a kid. I don't think I want to do that anymore, but I do really enjoy wildlife rehabilitation, and I have been volunteering at a wildlife rehab for about 3 years now. So it would be really cool to make it a game where you could learn about wildlife rehabilitation, and then maybe also like some of the proceeds of the game could go to local wildlife rehabs. Because
Mm.
some of the stuff that they need, it's not that expensive, or it's like literally dog food or cat food or whatever. So, but we also make really specific formulas. Anyway, so that'd be part of the game. But so it would be kind of like a business simulator or like roller coaster tycoon, like that type of like management game. Um, which I'm trying to think if that would like, do we call those cottagecore games or do we call them something else?
What management games? I think some of
Yeah.
them can be.
Okay. I think this could be because it could be really cozy. You could make it really cozy, especially if you have like aspects where you play with the animals and stuff, which you can. Um, so you could also have really exotic animals. So clearly, in my neck of the woods, we only have a lot of the native animals. So like squirrels, rabbits, turtles, some songbirds, things like that that come in. But in this type of game, you don't have to do that. You could have like zebras or lions or tigers or pandas or like all of these different things that come in with some form of injury or illness, and then you have to heal them. And then you could also like build enclosures or enrichment. You would prepare all of the meals, you'd clean after them. So that is just kind of everyday stuff that you do at the wildlife center. And the idea of a wildlife rehab is that you receive the animals, like people find an animal in the wild that is either injured or ill in some way, and you receive them, and they need to be rehabbed, and so that they can be released. Like the whole point is always for them to be released. So a lot of these animals you don't want to like play with. You don't want them to get used to being held and cared for by people. So a lot of the animals we actually don't really interact with a ton. We put them in a container, like a little cage for them, and then we give them a bunch of food. We'll take them out once or twice a day for medication, depending on the severity of their injuries. But there are some that are unreleasable because of, if they have an injury that is too difficult for them to be able to be released. Those are the types of animals that we do keep as ambassador or education animals. And we'll take those animals to shows or fairs or just different events to educate people about wildlife and wildlife rehabilitation and the importance of maintaining areas for wildlife. So those animals you could play with. You could have little mini games where you play with them, where you build enrichment with them, kind of design their cages a little bit more spiffy, because it's a place that they're staying for their life. I think the only thing about this type of game is that it could be maybe too macabre or too gory, because we do have a lot of animals that come in that are kind of beyond healing. And in those situations, we usually just humanely euthanize them, which is better than the alternative of them, being stuck outside and just, slowly passing. So I don't know if maybe there could be like some form of in-game currency that's about the fact that you've, done some form of kindness for that animal, made it so that their last, or if we do try and heal them, but their illness or injury was too severe and they end up passing anyways. The like effort was there, like there was an attempt made, and so I don't know if there could be like some type of incentive system for that, where it's like you get these points that could then maybe like be used to try and heal an animal later. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like how to gamify that aspect of it, because it is sad, but it's also a fact of it. Like that's what happens. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about any of that, or?
Yeah, I think it's it's interesting. I'm thinking of how to make this different from just like a standard zoo tycoon game. And like, because obviously it's not the same thing. I'm not trying to say it is the same thing, but in terms of like gameplay, how it would be different, because a lot of that is very similar. Not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, that's fine.
I think the biggest difference is a lot of like, so the wildlife center I work at, for example, we don't have people come. Like, even for our education or ambassador animals, no one comes to it.
So you basically, there are never any guests and you never have enough money.
Correct.
Is what you're saying.
Correct. And so you have to have someone on social media. I mean, we have enough, quote unquote, enough money, but you can't pay anyone.
So
it's
maybe
all volunteer.
So yeah. So maybe there's a part of the game which is having to go and get people to give you money, like donors.
Yep. Yeah,
we're just depressing. We're just designing the most depressing game now, aren't we?
But that's reality.
It's like animals come in injured, you have to kill some of them, and also you have to go and talk to rich people to beg them for money, and most of the time they don't give you it.
I will say, like, basically, like, if there is any profit, the profit just goes to, like, so the person who runs our center, for example, it's out of her house, and we don't have like a fancy facility. We're trying to build one, but we need to like get the money to build one. Um, but it's basically just like she doesn't get a money. Like she doesn't get like a paycheck or anything. It's
Yeah.
just she scrapes by and like makes what she can for the animals. So the animals never go without. Like we never euthanize an animal because we're like we don't have the ability to take care of this animal
Hmm.
like because we are out of resources. That doesn't ever happen. Um but it's just kind of a did she get a paycheck this month or not?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And she does pay like so out of the maybe 40 volunteers that we have, I think there's like 4 or 5 of them that are paid to make sure that there is someone who's there at all times and can make like supervision and supervisor like decisions. But it is a very tight budget
Mm.
game. But then if you get something cool like a leucistic raccoon, which we've gotten before, which is a raccoon that's white instead of like
Oh.
any animal that comes in like a white form instead of because it's like their body doesn't produce the pigment
Hmm.
in certain spots, then you could like
Same.
post about that animal on social media and like hopefully generate some some funds.
Ah, you can create a freak show.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of those animals, like we had a fox that was white. You can't
Oh,
release
wow.
that. We can't really. It was also an animal that was in the from the illegal pet trade. So we get some
Ah,
animals also that are just straight up from the illegal pet trade that are surrendered to us by like local wildlife authorities.
Cody, this is getting sadder.
But then they have a great life.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well we can stop. But
Well, I'm not. Well, no, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I just like. I mean, I guess I think this can be done, but a lot of thought would need to go into how to make it not depressing,
correct,
right? Because we don't want depressing cottagecore games. We want
the cozy aspect. Yeah,
cozy, and there can be negative aspects about things. There can be
yeah,
sad parts of it, like there have been stories in particularly Stardew that have it brought me to tears. Right, there
yeah.
are sad bits, but the point is you don't want that to be all the time.
Right.
And we're not going to figure out how to make a wildlife rehabilitation game in this podcast not depressing, right? Like that's not what we're going to do here. But I think it has some interesting aspects, certainly.
Mhm. And I think if people like if someone wants to make it and they want input, let me know because I do think that it would be like a good. I think of it as another like game for impact type of thing.
Yeah,
Both of my suggestions could be games for impact. They kind of like educate you about an aspect of the world or culture or society that could use more help.
yeah,
Um, because yeah, the majority of these animals get released back into the wild, and then they came in with a broken leg and they leave perfectly fine. So it's something that is we're trying to do our little part to make sure that our wildlife doesn't go extinct.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. We like wildlife existing.
Yay, wildlife.
Cool. Well, my other one, because apparently I'm doing the existing franchises thing, is I also want a Sonic cottagecore game.
Hmm.
Now, there would probably be more discussion about this if it was me and Kevin, which it was originally meant to be,
Okay.
because Kevin is a big Sonic guy as
I'm
well.
I'm also a big Sonic person, but
Are you? Okay, fair enough.
oh yeah.
I was not aware of that. Well, maybe
I'm
you will.
I'm more into so I grew up playing the 2D Sonic games.
Mhm.
But yeah, continue.
I think you could make a pretty fully featured farming game with
Hmm.
probably only things that have already been in Sonic games already
Hmm.
and putting them together in a really nice way. So the first couple of things that popped into my head was obviously in the new Sonic Frontiers, I think had a Big the Cat fishing minigame,
Hmm.
right? So that's an obvious one, right? You got to have Big the Cat fishing if you're making a Sonic
Hmm.
Cottagecore game. And then there was
Well,
was
he would just be the one that gives you
yes,
the fishing pole.
yes, of
But
course.
then you could but yeah, so he would be in there for sure.
He's
Yeah.
the Goofy of this Sonic game.
Yeah, exactly.
Deep cut Disney Dreamlight Valley net reference. Is Goofy known for fishing? Like, why Goofy?
You know what's funny is I don't know, but Donald is known
Oh yeah, for the
for
boat.
yeah, and
Yeah,
he talks about fishing all the time in the game
yeah,
because he's a sailor.
yeah.
So, I mean, I understand though. I know Goofy
He does have
fishes.
some silly fishing sketches,
Well, he also fishes in the Goofy movie. He has the perfect
obviously.
cast. Have you ever seen the Goofy
I
movie?
have not. I don't
Oh
have.
my gosh, watch it and cry because it is amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
so here's an okay. So How to Fish is an animated short produced by Disney and first released
Mhm.
in 1942, starring
Who's in it?
Goofy.
Oh, starring Goofy. There you go.
So that's probably
Okay.
why. Anyway, we're not talking about Disney Dreamlight Valley. They've already done a Disney Cottagecore game. I'm talking about Sonic Cottagecore
Hmm.
game. So the other thing that popped into my head is, was it Sonic Advance or Advent? I can't remember. There was a Sonic game that had a Chow Garden where you're tending to Chow, is that
I say
Chow
ciao.
Chow? Anyway, I think it was
Um,
Sonic Adventure 2.
okay, yeah, I was gonna say it's one of the Sonic Adventure games.
Um,
Um,
and I
mhm.
feel like you could bring that back in some aspect as well. And I suspect there are other things that I'm not thinking of that could be done
Maybe they could
really well.
garden for you.
Ooh, yeah. So you like you're tending to them and you're growing them
Mm-hmm.
up. You're growing them up, and then they help you like the kind of harvest sprites type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I could also see like different areas of the game because so thinking of like the 2D Sonic games like Sonic 1, 2, 3, whatever, blah, 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 having the different biomes from those because there's some pretty cool biomes. So you could have like different areas that you could explore that
Mm.
are kind of in that vein. I really particularly like the Stony Peak one from the first Sonic game. I cannot remember what it's called.
I feel like your base, like where you lived, would have to be Green Hill Zone, right? And
Yeah,
other
exactly.
areas are places you go to maybe like resource gather, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
100%. Um, I'm almost there. I'm almost there. Reception, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I don't think that they have the information of all of the different zones. What would we do with the Chaos Emeralds? What would the Chaos Emeralds be?
You would
Would
gain them, and like as you do certain things. So
mm-hmm.
much like in how I'm trying to think of an example. Uh, well, just like how you unlock. So when you get a certain point, you unlock instead of like
Mm-hmm.
a crafting recipe, you unlock a Chaos Emerald, and that gives you some extra abilities, like in the new Superstars, Sonic Superstars.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, I don't
Um,
play the new games.
each of the Chaos Emeralds in that game gives you like a new ability, so it would
Mm-hmm.
unlock quicker ways to do things, stuff like that.
Okay.
I think could be fun.
And then maybe like he could use the rings to travel to like the big rings. He could find them every now and then. Or maybe they just like appear and those could go between the different zones. I'm trying to find the zones. Oh, here we go. Chemical plant zone, green hill zone, scrap brain zone, marble zone. Is that the one I'm thinking of? No, I don't like. Well, I do like marble zone actually. That one's pretty dope. Sky sanctuary. I do like casino night too.
Hmm.
I
Casino
can't.
night could be like the casino in the desert in Stardew, like an actual casino.
Hmm.
Sonic goes to the casino.
I also would absolutely need Sonic Spinball in this
Oh, of course.
somewhere. It could literally just be
Just a
like
mini
you walk
game,
up. Yeah, exactly.
an arcade in the in somewhere,
Yeah,
right?
an
Like
arcade machine that you walk up to and it's Sonic Spinball.
no one cares why it's here. Just do it.
Just shut up and let me play Sonic
They could even do one which is
Spinball.
just like the original Sonic as well. You could play
Yeah.
the original Sonic in this because they love re-releasing that game.
Yeah. No, Sonic Spinball and Dr. Mario were two of my absolute favorite games on the NES and Sega systems. It was ugh, loved those games and would like more of those games.
Hmm. Okay,
Cool.
Cool. Give me
Uh,
your second one.
so my second one that I came up with, again, absolutely mystery how I came up with this type of game. But it's a game where you manage habitat for wildlife.
What?
So, listeners, if this is your first episode and you don't know who I am, my bachelor's degree is in fisheries and wildlife, and I started off working on wildlife habitat management, and then I ended up working in for bee habitat management, and now I just do general insect biodiversity. So, this is another thing. I think like in a lot of these games, you're given a plot of land and people use this land for farming, right? Like that's like you're like I wrote, like you're given a plot of land because your grandfather died and now you suddenly have all this land. But a lot of people in real life, in the real, these private landowners that I speak with, they are given a plot of land or they have a plot of land and they want to manage half of it for wildlife. So instead of using the entire portion of the land to maximize farming or like get cows or whatever, they actually want to like manage it and alter the landscape or alter I almost said flora, but I need to come up with the layman's term, like the different plants that are there.
I was going to say, isn't the layman's term just plants?
Yeah, just plants. They want to manage the plants and make sure that the water quality and the soil quality is good, and minimize their pesticide use and herbicide use and all of that kind of stuff to make sure that it is a good space for wildlife. So that would be kind of like what this game would be: is you're given a plot of land and you have to keep at least half of it for wildlife diversity. Biodiversity and increasing and improving the wildlife biodiversity in your surrounding area. So you can do whatever you want on your half. Like you can farm it, you can log it. And that gives you enough profit so that you can make money to then manage the other side. So this would be kind of like Terra Nil, where you restore habitats and clean things up. And I really like games like Terra Nil. However, like in the real in reality, we can't just restore everything 100% for wildlife because obviously we still need to make living and have food and have the resources that we want or whatever. So this is kind of like more of a
So you're not suggesting killing all humans?
Not in this game.
Okay.
This game would be more about like how to manage landscapes to be not just for humans or not just for wildlife, but kind of I call it a whole earth approach where we are part of the ecosystem. Humans are a part, often a destructive part, but we are part of the natural world. We are not separate from it. And so it's figuring out how to live and coexist with these animals so that we aren't killing them, but we still have our needs met. So it would have things like soil chemistry and managing the soil chemistry and understanding if your soils are leached of nutrients and you might need to put more nutrients in the soils, and making sure that you have plants that will retain those nutrients or bring them back to the soils, maybe some nitrogen fixing plants, making sure that the water quality is great. So that's one thing, especially out here in Pennsylvania. A lot of the streams have very, very poor water quality because of acid mine drainage. So you could have different like things that actually occur in the world, like acid mine drainage issues or microplastics in the water or that kind of thing, where you have to clean the water. And you can actually use what aquatic macroinvertebrates live in the water. So like think of like dragonfly larvae or stonefly larvae or mayfly larvae. Some of those you will only find them in good streams, but some of them you'll find them in any stream. So you can actually do a survey for what macroinverts are in your water and see like, oh, I'm only getting these ones that come out of really bad streams, so I need to do something to improve my stream health. You would grow plants, make sure that you have lots of flowers for invertebrates and birds that require flowers. You would also have a side that's keeping out invasive plants, plants that are going to outcompete native plants, and then other plants that might make it difficult for others to grow, like ferns. Ferns actually change the soil chemistry in such a way that other plants won't grow. So then they can just take over an entire area, which is not good if
Oh
you want to
no,
have
that's
diversity.
not ideal.
Not ideal. And depending on the quality of the wildlife habitat that you have, you can actually receive money from the. This is a real thing in the world. If you have through the USDA, oh my gosh, United States Department of Agriculture, NRCS, which is the Natural Resource Conservation Service. Okay, USDA, NRCS, Working Lands for Wildlife. Okay, I don't have to say anything else. I always just call it USDA, NRCS, Working Lands for Wildlife. But through that program, you can actually get money for having good quality wildlife habitat on your property. And you'll get like a tax incentive or a like a you'd get money back. And so after a while, that it'll pay for itself. So then you don't have to do anything. You can actually convert more of your land to wildlife habitat if you want to. You'd also get to see the demography of your wildlife population change as you work. So first, you would have like really basic animals or common animals that will survive in disturbed areas. So things like deer, fox, crows, robins, anything that you might expect to see in a city. Then you'd see them on your property. But then as your area gets better, you might start getting specialists. You'd maybe even get some species that are in decline. So you're actually helping to reverse declines. And then throughout the landscape throughout like the map, I'm thinking of like the Stardew map, for example, like maybe in the northeast, there's another plot of land that is just absolute trash, but it could be a really good meadow. You could maybe buy that and then just manage that area for meadowland. Maybe there'd be one that's a wetland area. So there used to be different areas around the town that you can manage and restore back to good wildlife habitat and see, like you do in Terra Nil, see actual change and like actual like the animals coming back
Yeah.
and things like that.
So I feel like you could do this in such a way that you you are forced to make a decision. So you're talking about like farming on half and keeping half for biodiversity.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of perhaps giving a choice there
Yeah.
of how much exactly you do of what. And if you go over half, you start to see negatives towards other things,
Yes.
right? And it makes your farming harder or stuff like that. It makes certain things worse. I don't know the specific science behind those things, right? But rather
Yeah.
than just saying, "Oh, here's the stuff you farm, here's the stuff you don't," you talk
Yep.
about why you should do what you do, and then if people don't do that, they see negatives towards that.
Yes, I think that would be good. And there's also things like depending on what you're doing on your like so say you do split it 50-50, depending on what you do in your farming side, like what if you spray a bunch of herbicide
Yeah.
on your farming side because you were getting a bunch of like weed plants, but your seeds that you bought don't react to that herbicide. It's fine, but
Hmm.
it kills all your weeds. There's
Hmm.
going to be an effect on the wildlife side of your property as well.
Yeah.
Um, and it'll be a diluted effect. So like at first, like right on the edge of your farm, like it'll be a really, really extreme effect, and then it'll be less of an effect as you go deeper in, but there will be an effect, and you will see a negative consequence of that. But I think like it's a game that would be really difficult to like code it all in, but I know that people can do this. I know people can code all of this stuff in. They've done it for other games.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it would be cool because you could actually have it be realistic ways that to manage habitat and like use the different ways that people manage riparian buffers or meadows or wetlands or whatever and actually have the costs of those and really just teach people about how to do that. I think that'd be really cool. It's a
Yeah.
game that I would buy in a heartbeat for sure.
Yeah. No, I think it would be good. I think you do. It's definitely possible to do, and it would be a
Hmm.
lot of work. But I think you've also got your other challenge is making sure it's fun, of
Mm-hmm.
course, because well, you want it to be fun as well as because if it's not fun, nobody's gonna play it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely would be a good idea.
I mean, I just imagine a Stardew that like in your town you also have like the guy who's a birder that really wants this one bird to come into his backyard, but he needs it to come from your land or something. I don't know. Like I've had that at my parents' house. There was a guy that came to our door because he was like, "Hey, so like we saw this hummingbird nest that was like on the other side of your property, but he never goes past your property. If you could hang a hummingbird feeder, then maybe he'll see your feeder and then he'll go far enough to see our feeder and then we will get hummingbirds too." It's just like basically like it helps other people in on the landscape that also want it. And you could have like the Joja version too of like people being like, "No, boo, we don't want a spotted owl in this area. Like don't how dare you, you know?" But that gets
Yeah,
into
how
some
dare you?
politics.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that could be good fun.
Yeah. I think it's a game that would be really fun for scientists.
Yeah.
But I don't know if like normal people would be interested in it. That would be
Yeah, well, that as I say, that's the challenge. Your challenge is making it so that non-scientists want to play it,
yeah.
and therefore get the advantage of seeing how these things interact and going like, oh, okay, so this does actually make a big difference doing these
Yeah.
things. Yeah,
I just think in like a lot of these cottagecore games that we have now, you'll see that kind of stuff happen. So like in Coral Island, for example, as you clear the trash out of the ocean, you will see like a turtle come back or there's like really cool fish that come into the area, like
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
But I think if there was a game that was more intentional about it, like you are doing this not just to clear trash, but specifically because if you do this, there will be this one rare turtle species like that can come into the area. Especially if you plant a lot of or fix a lot of the seaweed or fix a lot of this one fish population. I don't know. I want to see more intentional wildlife
yeah.
stuff in games.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome. Well, that's four ideas
Hmm.
that developers can run with themselves. Obviously, my two are for very specific companies to do. Uh, I don't think anybody can just pick up the Pokemon Concierge game, but you know, in a
No,
hundred years,
anyone design. I'm sure Nintendo would be fine with you doing that.
um, awesome. Well, thank you, Cody, for joining me. Where
Hmm.
can people find you on the internet?
I am just at my name on a lot of things, like Twitter or gosh, what is it, Blue Sky? But then on Instagram, I'm at Hiking Beagle, BE Eagle, and it's mostly dog content there.
As the name would suggest.
Yeah. What about you?
People can find me as the Scottbot on mastodon.scot and on Twitter. You can find the podcast on Tumblr and Twitter at THSPod. You can find links to all of these things and a feedback form on our website, harvestseason.club. One of those links is a link to our Patreon if you want to support the podcast financially. You can do
Hmm.
that there and also get access to our Slack where lots of fun conversations happen and also our bonus episodes of the podcast, the greenhouse. We should probably do some more greenhouses. Not done one
Hmm. Hmm.
in 2 weeks.
We should
So
also, I would love to hear people's takes on their own wildlife or not wildlife games. Well, I do want to hear that too, but cottagecore games. Like, what cottagecore games do you think would be really beneficial, and what would you like to see? Or do you agree with our definition of what a cottagecore game needs? Do you disagree? What like I want to know that. Let's start that conversation in that Slack. Join us. Patreon.com/thspod. Join us.
awesome. Thank you, listeners, for listening. Thank you, Cody, again for joining me.
Hmm.
And until next time, farmers, Have a
Have a
good
good
harvest.
harvest. So good.
The harvest season is created by Al McKinley, with support from our patrons, including our pro farmers, Kevin, Stuart, and Elisa. Our art is done by Micah the Brave, and our music is done by Nick Burgess. Feel free to visit our website, harvestseason.club, for show notes and links to things we discussed in this episode. Let's see how long I can go in this cold room because I forgot to turn the heating on early.